Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Flameside chat here at Center College. I'm your host, Jamie Powell, and I work here in the library. Thanks for joining us on this brisk, lovely November evening when we are going to talk about gratitude. Seems the right time of year for it. And to help us have that conversation, we've got two people affiliated with Center in different ways, but both experts on the topic of gratitude and giving. So first I'd like to introduce Father Norman Fischer. Father Norman graduated from Center in 1995 with a bachelor's in art and psychology. He got his master's of divinity degree from Mundelein College. Father Norman now serves as the parish priest for St. Peter Claver Catholic Church in Lexington. He also serves as the chaplain for Lexington Catholic High School. Father Norman is a bit of a local celebrity in the Bluegrass region. A lot of people in Lexington and the surrounding areas know Father Norman. Joining him tonight is Richard Trollinger. Richard joined Center's staff as the vice president for college relations in 1994. He holds a bachelor's from Emory and Henry College, his master's in education from Vanderbilt, a master's in philanthropic studies from Indiana University, and holds his PhD in higher educational policy studies from the University of Kentucky. He is considered an expert in philanthropy in American higher education. So tonight, these gentlemen are going to be discussing gratitude, its theoretical underpinnings, how it relates to generosity and philanthropy and religiosity, and why expressing gratitude makes you feel good. But before we start, I just want to remind everybody that we like these chats to be interactive. That means we want you to join us. So please comment in the YouTube comments or tweet your questions with the hashtag Flameside, all one word. So I'd like to turn it over now to Father Norman to just kick us off with some opening remarks. And after they talk a little bit, we'll turn it over for questions. So Father Norman.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm very grateful to be Flameside with everybody here at Center Deer, my alma mater. I just want to start off with this quote that has been passed on to me that I think sort of helps me to know which direction we're going into tonight. It's not happy people who are grateful. It is grateful people who are happy. And I think that in so many ways, even in our monotheistic religions, world religions, remind us the importance, the spiritual exercise of giving thanks, and that it is a spiritual gift to give yourself, and it's a definite spiritual reality that opens you up to seeing, having a different kind of worldview that one might not have if they don't have a faith life. But certainly gratitude is something that you can give to yourself and something that you can practice to remind yourself that it's a spiritual breathing reality that you can share in. And so it's a great gift to do spiritually.
Thank you. Let me also say how grateful I am to be here tonight, especially to share the program with Father Norman. I started at Center the summer before his senior year. He was quite a presence on campus as a student, and I remember him well and have taken particular pleasure in following his career in the years since he left the campus. I have always taken some particular pride in the fact that we as Americans have a national holiday where we observe gratitude, a day set aside to count our blessings and to be thankful for the abundance that is ours. It turns out that being grateful is not only something that makes us feel good. According to a report story yesterday morning on the NPR, there's now research that shows that being grateful also helps our hearts. This story reported on some research that was conducted at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine by Dr. Paul Mills. And what he discovered is that people who were grateful and they did a number of different tests to determine who was grateful. But they suffered less often from depression. They slept better and had more energy. In his concluding remarks, Dr. Mills said, taking the time to focus on what you are thankful for, letting that sense of gratitude wash over you. This helps us manage and cope and helps keep our hearts healthy. When I heard that report while I was shaving yesterday morning, I always listen to NPR. I couldn't help but think of a book that came out last year called The Paradox of Generosity. And it's by co-authors Christian Smith and Hillary Davidson. And it reports on some of the initial findings of a study that's based at the University of Notre Dame and sponsored by the John Templeton Foundation. It's called the Science of Generosity Initiative. And anyway, you know, the study has found that Americans who consider themselves to be the most generous are also the most happy. The people who are the most generous have better health, greater happiness, a sense of purpose in life, and personal growth. It's a fascinating book. I recommend it to you. The paradox that it speaks of in the title, the paradox of generosity, is sort of explained in the subtitle, Giving We Receive, Grasping We Lose. Now, gratitude and generosity are not the same. They're not synonymous, but they are closely related. And when I think about gratitude and generosity, I always remember a conversation I had about 15 years ago with Dr. Paul Shervish from Boston College. Dr. Shervish had founded and headed up Boston College's Center on Wealth and Philanthropy. And he had conducted a number of interviews, 100 or more, with people who had become wealthy. They didn't start out in life as wealthy, but they had become wealthy. Many of whom then became philanthropic, but some who did not. And after he had made a presentation at a Center on Philanthropy forum in Indianapolis, I was chatting with him afterwards, and he said to me, Richard, the thing that was the difference was whether or not people had a sense of blessing about their lives. If they felt blessed, then they were much more likely to be grateful, and then gratitude breeds generosity. So you see that connection between a sense of blessing or a sense of gratitude and generosity. It's not surprising at all to me that giving back is one of the most frequently cited motivations for giving. When donors are asked why they had made a gift, especially when people who've made especially large gifts are interviewed by the media, more often than not, they'll comment on the fact that they have been blessed in life and that it's important to them to give back. And of course, you know, we as Americans have long claimed philanthropy as our top civic virtue. And the giving by Americans this past year, in 2014, the last year for which the information is available, exceeded $358 billion. So it's you know, it is a huge sum of money that makes possible much of what happens in the nonprofit world in this country. So those are my comments.
All right. Great opening comments, gentlemen. Let's kick it off with some questions. We've had one come in from Jessica Coleman Hastings, class of 97. This is this is kind of a two-parter, so I'll just start, I'll ask it together and you guys can approach it however you like. So the first question is, how can you teach gratitude? And are some people naturally more predisposed to show it, to live it?
Well, I gotta guess I can give props to my mom, who right away growing up in Perryville, Kentucky. Now you can say Perryville properly with 3 syllables or 2, Perville. And growing up in Perville, my mom would have us take the zucchini that we grew in our farm, Battlefield Road, and she would tell us that now you're going to take those zucchini, you're going to grate those, and we're going to make some zucchini bread. And once we're doing that, oh, don't eat that. We're going to share that baked goodness with some folks who live in the housing development area who have a less fortunate situation than ourselves. And so right away she said, we're going to go visit Mrs. Porter, if you will, and we're going to present that to her. And right away there was no reason. I didn't really have to know Miss Porter. I didn't really want to travel that day. I was pretty content on the farm, playing around with animals. But it was all a mode of my mom knew that there was something that she could do and something that we could do to make an impact. And she was grateful that she had the energy. We had the zucchini, and she knew a friend that she could make that connection with. And certainly it wasn't the best zucchini because we made it zucchini bread, but it certainly warmed that heart of Miss Porter, and certainly we were impacted by the visits that we would have. And she didn't have teeth, so it was really soft for her. But we were grateful. We learned pretty quickly that this was the kind of way that certainly was important to my mother's values and generosity and being grateful for what you have, and then letting that spill over, as Richard just mentioned, to the community. And it's a ripple effect. You don't have to have much. You just got to be able to see that there's an opportunity because you've been blessed to have that opportunity and to make good with it. So I think it's a teachable reality, and certainly it doesn't have to be a ginormous experience. It could be something simple, but the reality is the mindset was opened up. I think gratitude opens us up to a mindset that allows you to see the terrain of opportunities, and especially gives us a way to reach out to the others in our midst, that especially if you're as Christians, that you can see God in other people and how you can serve them. So it's a blessing.
I suspect most of us learned about giving back in Sunday school or church when our mother slipped that quarter into our hand, and we knew we were supposed to put it in the plate when it was passed down the pew. Doing that, inevitably leads to the question: why do we give money to the church or to other, or why do we put money in the red kettles at Christmas time? And that opens up marvelous conversations between parents and children. I think also just the fact that we have this national holiday, this Thanksgiving, children learn about gratitude and why it was important to the Pilgrims. I mean, we all made those ridiculous costumes where we tried to look like pilgrims at the first Thanksgiving. But there was also some focus in that experience on why the Pilgrims felt it was necessary to pause, particularly at the end of the harvest, and give thanks for the abundance. And as Father Norman says, it's not always, one of the things I love about American philanthropy, it's not something just that the wealthy do. Giving cuts across all segments and socioeconomic levels of our society, and it's not restricted to the well-to-do. And I think that's something that we can also take pride in as Americans, is the democratization of philanthropy, which tends to be only an activity of the wealthy in other countries.
I really, I like that you both mentioned, we tend to often think of giving and philanthropy as so, money-based, big money-based, and it doesn't have to be. And just like, Father Norman gave the example of making the zucchini bread, that's something you had plenty of. It wasn't money per se, but it was zucchini. And you made something really good out of that and shared it with somebody who didn't have that. And I think that's what gets forgotten a lot by all of us in our busy lives, are like small things we can do that don't necessarily have anything to do with money.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just the reality, and from a Christian, Judeo-Christian perspective, Jesus called out the woman. He observed in a moment of tithing, if you will, at the temple, where a widow was giving just a few coins at that point, the mite, which would, represent a very small amount of change. And then there was folks around her that was giving who had surplus wealth. And Jesus himself commented that between them all, or among them all, she gave the most, because she gave from her whole livelihood. They gave from their surplus. And he commended her and commented to the disciples how it wasn't the amount, it was the amount of love and the amount of connection that she had, and why she was giving. And I think sometimes we can be habitual in our generosity, which may not be a reflection of the nature of their gratitude or where your heart is with something or someone. So it is interesting to note that it's important to God in terms of Jesus's experience. Even the 10 lepers, and they were all filled with a reality that made them unclean and unwelcome and ostracized and marginalized. And when they cried out for Jesus to bring healing to them, he told them to go show themselves to the priest to be readmitted into the community. And as they're going, they were all cleansed, but only one returned, and that person wasn't even Jewish. This person was a Samaritan, and he was like, "Well, weren't all of them cleansed? Where are the other 9? And has none but this foreigner come back to give thanks?" And he says, and he commends that Samaritan. He says, "Well, stand up and go. Your faith has saved you." And I think that's neat that in terms of Christianity, Jesus said he takes note that these people did not even give thanks. What's going on here? And I think that's something that whether you have a belief system or not in a deity, I think it's sort of interesting that Jesus himself called out Thanksgiving a couple of times in Scripture, at least.
Hearing Father Norman speak reminded me, I spent a lot of my spare time, my free time reading. It's always been my favorite pastime. And a book I read this past summer is called Imagining Abundance, written by a woman named Carrie Alice Robinson. And she tells a story in Imagining Abundance about, it was an incident where a young nun was working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, I believe, and they were distributing rice to the poor. And this one elderly woman came up carrying 2 buckets. They were actually giving, putting rice only in 1 bucket for each family or each person. This woman came up with 2, and Mother Teresa filled each bucket half full because she thought that was all the woman could carry. But the young nun asked after she left, "Why did we do that? Why didn't we go to the neighbor's house?" The woman explained that she was getting rice for her neighbor who was too sick to come herself. And Mother Teresa, as the young nun asked Mother Teresa, "Why didn't we just go to this neighbor's house afterwards and take her a bucket of rice?" And Mother Teresa looked at the young nun, rather sharply and said, "Never deny the poor the opportunity to be generous." And that's, it's a marvelous story. Any of us, and many of us have, volunteered to ring the bell for the Salvation Army at Christmas time during the Advent season. And, we have all seen people that we weren't sure had very much themselves come and put money in the red kettle. And, I always think about that this is, this is something that everybody has an opportunity to do regardless of their means.
Good points. So got a question that's come in from two different viewers, but it's kind of on the same topic. And you kind of, since you mentioned Mother Teresa, I'll just ask it now. So the question is, do you each have a personal gratitude superhero, somebody that you just look up to as kind of epitomizing living a life of gratitude and enhancing that in the people they encounter in their daily lives?
Well, certainly I can do the parentals. I can go, obviously mom, dad also was very much practical and having a great perspective and an attitude of gratitude. He too, at this day, he's retired. He put in over 20 years in the military as a veteran, and to this day, he makes sure if he recognizes someone who's a veteran, he makes sure that their needs are taken care of, and if there's opportunities for them to receive benefits that they haven't been experiencing lately, he'll walk them through the paperwork. He's traveled to Indiana, he's traveled towards Louisville just to go to these folks and make sure that they're covered with the benefits that they're to be able to receive. And I admire that. Of course, he is the kind of dad that says, hey, our neighbor's cows are out. You're going to go get them. And I was like, oh, okay. But I think like he and my mom were certainly, I'll start there in a nuclear family sense, that my gratitude, why I can think about being a priest, is in giving my life and gratitude to God and Jesus, is because how they taught me and they gave me some fundamental experiences that I can call to mind right now and say that they were very pivotal. They were very foundational for why I can be grateful and why I hear that adage, what God has given you is your gift from God, but what you make of it is your gift back to God. And I thank God that I can do that with my life. And I still am shocked that I've been a preacher 15 years, and it's been a little bit of a moon since I graduated from Center College. So it's neat to see. My heart gets full every time I come back, because my vocation was also reinforced here at this awesome campus, and in my experiences with some amazing faculty and some wonderful teammates on the track team and so forth. So I think my parents definitely espoused that, and the experiences I had in my high school and college collegiate career was very, very helpful as well.
I actually have many philanthropic heroes. One of the great advantages, blessings I have in life, is that my work at Center gives me the opportunity to work with people who are extraordinarily generous. And perhaps my current hero that I would lift up is our former board chairman at Center College, David Grossman. Marlene and David, as many of our viewers will recall, established the Grossman Scholars Program a little over a year ago, and that scholarship program provides a full tuition scholarship for first generation students, first generation, high achieving, high need students. And because I was a first generation student, neither of my parents graduated from high school, let alone attended college. So that Grossman Scholars Program, that scholarship program speaks to me and touches my heart in a very special way. I've told David and Marlene that if I had the resources, it's the scholarship program that I hope I would have had their foresight and their vision, their generosity to create. But there are a number of people who give somewhat sacrificially to Center College to enable the young men and women who pursue their educational goals here to have that opportunity. And what a great blessing it is to to work with them, and always on Thanksgiving. I'm particularly grateful for the people who enable my work through their own generosity.
I'd like to tag in there. Pope Francis, certainly, I'm grateful for. He's a fireball for me right now, and I just got a chance to kind of celebrate Mass with him in Philadelphia when he had his pilgrimage to the United States, and certainly he has been an inspiration to knowing how to give as a priest and how to give as a human being. I think he's calling out the comfortable and waking us up to what we have and who we are, and not to make our lives about what we do, but who we are, and all of us share in that divine image of God's love, and we can all share that gift freely. And I think he's trying to strip down some of the kinds of, a lot of the images of church that are false. It has to look beautiful, it has to be beautiful in order to be godly. But we're talking about getting our hands dirty and keeping our hearts pure. And I think he's teaching us how to have a spirit of gratitude, a spirit of love, a spirit of compassion that is really waking us up from third world countries to first world nations. And I gotta say, he's gotta be a hero for me. Forgot that, sorry.
Well, that's right. And even though I'm a Presbyterian, he's a hero for me as well. So it's hard not to admire Pope Francis.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I have a fan question then. So I just want to know, did you actually get to talk to him?
I did not, but the former 2 popes ago, now the Saint John Paul II, I got a chance to meet him personally in the Vatican, and he actually received some of my artwork. I did a picture of Mother Teresa, and he received it. I couldn't even. He's like, "What do you have in your hands?" And I was like stunned, and I was like, "I have a painting, Your Holiness. I'd be so honored to present it to you." I was so nervous, and then he received it, and then he looked at, everybody wanted to honor him by kissing his ring as a show of reverence and respect, and then he looked at me and he touched my face and he said, "It's Kentucky." So, and I got a letter from like 3 weeks later after I came back from Rome during that Lent year 2000, right before my ordination, and actually got a chance to have a note from his secretary and office secretary, which stated the Pope has received your kind words and artwork, and he bestows upon you and your family an apostolic blessing. And I was like, what? So very, very thankful for that experience too.
Very cool story. It's got a few more questions coming in. We kind of talked a little bit about, Richard, you're talking about working with students and young people on kind of that topic. Do you feel that we are a culture of gratefulness? Do you think we're more grateful now versus when you so-called got in the business? How have you seen kind of the ebb and flow of gratefulness in your time in both your professions?
Well, I think there is a real tension in our society and our culture between the sense of gratitude that we celebrate on Thanksgiving and the consumerism and materialism that we dive into the next day on Black Friday. There's been a concern for some years that the drop off in church attendance, certainly of the major denominations, but really church attendance by all Americans, that that younger generations will not know the story of the Good Samaritan. And there's a part of me that wonders if we're seeing some of that now in some of the reaction and fear about helping with the refugee crisis that the world is experiencing. It's hard for me to believe that anyone who knew that story and took it to heart could think that we can just turn a blind eye to what's going on and affecting the lives of hundreds of thousands or millions of people. So I've often said if I weren't a naive optimist, and I am a naive optimist, I wouldn't be a fundraiser. I get up every morning expecting good things to happen, and more often than not, I'm not disappointed. So, I'm optimistic that that gratitude will continue to be an important element in our culture. I'm encouraged by the fact that we are very philanthropic, and that's a tradition. And to some extent, that tradition sort of helps perpetuate itself. It pulls more people in. We expect all the young, new billionaires in Silicon Valley to become philanthropists, and by and large, they do. It's just an expectation in our society that you give back. Now, a lot of people aren't giving through the church as much as they perhaps did in an earlier era, but they are still giving. And interestingly enough, there was research done at the University of Michigan a few years ago that showed that even for people who are not themselves religious, they tended to use religious language when talking about why they give. Giving back is a fairly secular, neutral term, but more often than not, when people probe their own innermost feelings, they express that in terminology that we would normally associate with religious language or religious people. So as I say, I'm encouraged to believe that gratitude still plays an important role in our society, and my best evidence for that is giving, and the fact that basically 70% of all Americans give at some level every year. Not always the same 70%, but the vast majority of Americans do give, and they give to different things. But giving is an important part of who we are, an expression of oneself, and an expression of who we are as a people. And I hope that will continue for generations to come.
Yeah, I remember myself here at Center College, the CARE program, Center Action Reaches Everyone with Ann, and I truly enjoyed my first experiences working with the foster care company down the way, foster home residents, and I was a play therapist and got a chance to spend a couple hours each weekend walking down to the foster care homes and just being a part of their summer program. And it was very, very great, made you feel good, and that's sort of a part of this, to be honest, is that it's intrinsic. It's when you start to share in giving, it's not just the other person that's a beneficiary of that. It's you who also in turn feel that intrinsic goodness come back out of you. And I think it's very important these days for colleges to see young people have some experiences of, did you learn how to give back? Did you learn how to share with others? Did you learn how to take your resourcefulness and experience offering that for the sake of others? And I think whether it's a Christian college or a private college or however, or a public university, it's a real important reality that the young generation now are being checked for rigorously. I can't help but think of the quote by a recent Canonized Saint Archbishop, Salvadorian Archbishop Oscar Romero, who said, he was martyred as he was saying Mass one day, and he was an activist for the poor, against social injustice, and assisting the marginalized. He said, "I desire not to have more, but to be more." And I think when you have experiences of great gratitude and you live more of a reflective life and a life of consciousness, you start to understand that it's not what you have, it's who you are, that you start to find your dignity and your purpose. And it won't be initials after your name that make you really feel good every day. You've got to still take your life and recognize the gift of that life and the power of that life and the beauty of that life and the goodness of that life, and know that somehow, some way that can be shared. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to know if you have if you have a body of water and it's not moving or it's not getting any kind of current or whatnot, it'll become stagnant. And I think that spiritually we can become stagnant without allowing our lives to be impacted by reflection and thoughtfulness about what we have in our life and who we are. And I think that every person, young or old, in school or out of school, can experience that practice, the spiritual practice of gratitude. And I think of an exercise like you can take this your hands and count 10 reasons why you can be grateful, 10 reasons to be thankful, 10 people in your life you're thankful for. And after each one, you just breathe it in and you're just aware of that gift for just a second or two. And once you do that, it's I've seen this happen with people who have come to me for some counsel who have been depressed. And they're just like, oh, I just feel horrible. I feel like I don't have nothing. I don't feel like have any purpose or anything. And I said, hey, let's try this exercise. Let's praise our way out of this. Let's thank our way out of this. So they do this exercise of 10 reasons to be grateful, or 10 people you're thankful for, and breathing each one individually into yourself and mindful of that connection. And they're like, whoa, I feel a little better. And it's not that there's not clinical depression up there, but there's that true sense of that, that funk that gets on you and in you because we're not living our life as we can and connecting ourselves to the right and sharing ourselves well.
It's interesting that this Dr. Paul Mills at the UC San Diego School of Medicine was, his study. He was doing a version of what Father Norman was just saying he does with parishioners who come to him, and that he took 40 heart patients and had them keep journals, which at least once every 3 days they wrote down 2 things for which they were grateful in their lives.
The gratitude journal.
And the gratitude journal, and at the end of different points along the way, a month, 2 months, 3 months, heart inflammation, high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats, all of those things had improved. It's part of it's a better way of living to have a positive attitude, and that includes being aware that we all owe our being to others. Whether it's our parents or if you're religious to God, and even if you aren't, you owe your being to. I like to think of being as a gift, and that helps shape the way I approach life.
I bet you got a good heart, Rich.
Well, it's not been as good as I would like.
All right. Let me throw a little wrench in it just a little bit. Let's talk about one of the tricky things. It's enjoyable to talk about gratitude and thankfulness when all of us in the rooms are, kind of feeling good about it. But how do you share gratitude? How do you interact with somebody who maybe is a little difficult to be grateful for? It's a little hard maybe to have a conversation with someone. How do you deal with the tougher nuts to crack when it comes to gratitude?
All right, so I think I might be alongside of Richard with this optimism deal. There's been folks that I've journeyed with that are in the choir, and you gotta love the choir because they're committed and dedicated. But there's some of those folks that they might make a joyful noise. And they might have a good voice or however, but outside of choir, when the mass is over, church is over, they're different, they go back to that solemn face and that maybe that bitterness, or they become a little, they don't have that joy again. So in my experiences, those are people that I don't know what it is, but God just draws me to folks who have struggles, and I love it, and it humbles me. But what I notice is that when I show my gratitude for that person, And I'm thinking of that before I even interact with these folks, that somehow, some way, I'm going to be revealed how to be thankful for them, and how I can approach them, that they can be appreciative of even a small thing. Like, I like the way, I like how you came across. I like your jacket. I like, compliments. There's ways that I feel like I got to show that I'm thankful for them. And then in the course of that genuine experience, they become a little bit more comfortable saying, you know what, my husband's sick. You know what, my bills are stacking on me. You know what, my child is in trouble. You know what, I'm afraid today. I'm alone today. And so it's almost like, I think like gratitude is like a vehicle, a way in which we can go places and be able to, if we're really genuinely grateful, there can be another avenue opened up for other people to start, even if they don't show they're grateful, that they have an opportunity to show where they really are. And it seems to me like if I'm genuinely grateful, that might be an influence to others, but it allows me to embrace my past and really honor my presence and get ready to celebrate a reality of a different future. And I think gratitude to me opens people up, and you might not get the response of them being grateful for you too. And that's probably a good thing. We shouldn't live like with our hand out, and you should expect something from somebody else like that. But when you genuinely care for someone and you are grateful for them, there might be a bridge that connects you to what they're really going through beneath that difficult surface, or that being that hard nut to crack.
I can't come close to paralleling what Father Norman just said, but I think it's very important for you to be comfortable with yourself, comfortable in your own skin, know what your motives are, and know who you as a person are. Then it just makes it a lot easier to deal with the difficult people in life. I think modeling the behavior that we want to bring out in others is was Father Norman said it beautifully, and I think that's what you have to do. And sometimes you're going to lose. I mean, I'm a fundraiser. I've been told no on many occasions, and I learned many years ago not to take it personally. It wasn't no to me, it was no to the cause, but sometimes it was no to the time, to the amount, whatever. Or maybe they just didn't like me, or they didn't like the institution I represented. But that didn't really shape me very much in terms of who I am and what I'm about in life.
And I'm grateful for, I invite people to church all the time, or other spiritual opportunities, and I get no's. I'm too busy, Father, or that's not going to work for me, or nah, I'm not interested. And it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I'm just thankful that they gave me an ear, and even if they go to St. Mattress that weekend, I'm able to know that if they sleep in, that's okay. That's I'm thankful for them to be able to have a restful weekend. And I think that comes with you just got to know that you love everyone. God put us here to love everyone and to serve everyone and to share and to see people where they really are and not to judge them no matter who they are. We're called to be able to have that a spirituality of gratefulness, because God's blessed us so much that we can meet people where they are and be grateful for them, even if they come off a little bit difficult or resistant or reluctant or however.
Can either one of you or both of you think of a time that you, maybe saw someone or knew of someone that gave back and it really surprised you in just kind of the way they did it or why they did it? Any kind of examples where you can change the names to protect the innocent, to kind of just give us some real life examples of anything?
Oh, there's definitely ways in which people astound us. in their pouring out of their gratitude, some generous behavior. And, I've seen where people have given a car away to somebody because they couldn't have afforded it and they needed that transportation to get to their job. And I've seen grandiose realities like that, or I've seen where a famous glass blower from Center College, who's internationally known, would give a little piece of glass to a live auction just to help a church get built. And there's just a lot of ways that, again, if we're just aware of, what have people been doing in and around me that's noticeable, that teach us about the art of giving and the spiritual power of giving. I think the experiences ultimately are that people are free with whatever they have, whether it's money or zucchinis or glass or cars. People are free, and they know that those blessings will come back to them. So I don't want to make my litany of thankful, people that have done amazing thankful realities known, but certainly those are a few that come to mind.
This March will be the 42nd anniversary of my first direct mail solicitation on behalf of another college. But in March of '74, I put together the letter, the brochure, the business reply. I'm the one who sent it out, and was kind of amazed, and I still am, that we ask and people give. I was amazed by many people that I had known in college. I was working for my undergraduate alma mater at the time. There were people who I wouldn't have expected to give, who did. And then I was equally amazed by people that I automatically expected to give who didn't. And I've seen that, over and over across the past four decades. I would, confess myself that a week ago I was out Perryville Road to drive through one of the drive-through windows and pick up lunch on the run, and there was an older man with a dog, but he had a little cardboard sign saying that he was homeless and hungry, and I was caught in traffic and did not stop to give him any money. But the very next day, I was out there again, and I was with one of my daughters, and I made sure that I pulled over, handed her the money to hand to him. And that's not something I'll get to deduct from my income tax, but it was something that made me feel better, because I don't know what he'll do with the money, but he looked like he really was authentic. And for myself, for my own conscience, for my own sense of well-being, it was important for me to stop and to help him.
Amen. I'll take the confession. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Right.
There's been a lot of research and talk about habits, right? How we change our habits, create new habits, and the research says that in order to turn an action into a habit, it takes about 28 days. Do you feel like you have to be in the habit of giving back to be truly grateful?
I think that I think that is a true study and a true reality. I think the generosity, it's almost like being grateful and knowing that grateful mindset. It's really in religious terms, it'd be like a conversion, right? And so it doesn't have to be every second that you have a grateful heart, but at any point that you show that great gratitude in a form of generosity, or however it spills over into an act of kindness or however benevolence, I think that at any moment something could touch you in an experience. I mean, there's like people that goes to Starbucks and like, pay for the person behind me, swipe my debit card and give them $10 worth. And then that person drives off and then they watch and then there's this big elated smile like, what? What the fake, there's that whole sense of surprise. And I know that there's a wonderful family that came to Lexington County where I'm chaplain at, and they would do this surprise of Panera Day for all those who have birthdays, and in honor of all those who have birthdays on a particular month, each month, they would spend up to $800 to $900 worth of Panera goodness and place it at precise locations for all faculty and staff to receive and get their quiche on or get their streusel or their cherry Danish, whatever it is, they would just load it out and splay it out. And they were asked like, why do you do that? And they talked about the mystery of surprise and how good it is to know that in life that you don't have to have expectations, that things will happen in a way that you walk into it and it's like an amazing experience of goodness. And I think that you don't have to do something in terms of sharing grateful experiences every day of the week for a month, and you will then be a grateful person. Just know that any of one of those days could blow your mind and heart, which that's the whole point, is to have a new heart every day, not to be laden down by the experiences of your past that make you define who you are today, but that a real encounter of gratitude for yourself and for what you have been blessed with your life. That may be it. And from that, you have a life experience that you can always call upon and say, you know what, even though I haven't been grateful the past 10 days, I remember that one and it's touched my life forever. So I don't know.
I think one of the things we can be grateful for at Thanksgiving or 365 days of the year, it is the opportunity to give. It's a great blessing to be able to give, to help others. And once you start, it's hard to break that habit because you see, in fact, the challenge is, I never buy lottery tickets, but I always say that when I win the lottery, I'm going to become a philanthropist because there are so many things so many good causes that I would like to give to. It's an easy habit to develop, and I think I was to say, once you start, it's hard to stop. It's hard not to do something when you know you can.
Mm-hmm. I think like tonight's on Tuesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 in Lexington, I was a part of beginning a group called Conquest in the inner city at St. Peter and Paul Gym, to connect to my parents, St. Peter Claver. But it was based on three guys coming together over this past summer, learning about all the shootings that are happening in Lexington and the violence and the drugs and all kinds of gang realities. And tonight we've been in our 5th week of meeting, and we were sort of intimidated. What is this going to look like? Who's going to be on for the programming? And where are the kids coming from? All those questions, we were really overwhelmed. But we're just grateful for the opportunity to try it, and it was on our heart to do. So it's been happening, and tonight is the first night we're going to have a kid that actually has been a part of the Crips. He's a 13-year-old, and he's trying to get out. And so it's knowing that, we can actually be grateful for our blessings in our life and how we were raised to help others who may not have that fortune, but to know that we want to protect them and to, there's ways that you might not need that story that's a horrible story in life. You might just need to realize that your story is so blessed that you can pour that into someone who hasn't had that experience and ultimately impact the world. And so that's a real time, real life encounter that I can say that I'm thankful for how I was brought up, but I think how God is using me and the folks there that are volunteering from a week-to-week basis to truly make a difference with gratitude, grateful hearts, grateful lives.
That's great.
I think an important point there is that giving is not always money. Giving is volunteering, it's helping in ways that sometimes are more important than money. I think that life, our being, is a gift, and that all gifts require some form of reciprocation. We need to give ourselves back.
It's a great point. So we're almost out of time, but I have 2 questions that I want you both to think about, and then I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping information, and then I'm going to have you answer. So the first question is, what is your favorite Thanksgiving-related food that you're looking most forward to eating? And the second question is just some sort of closing remark that you would like to personally make to everyone on this topic of gratitude. So be thinking about those 2 things, those 2 answers. And I'm going to turn it over to you in just a second. But before I do that, I would like to thank both Richard and Father Norman for joining us tonight for a really great discussion on gratitude.
Thank you,
I'd like
Jamie.
to remind everybody that this broadcast will be available on the Center Alumni YouTube channel, and we'll be posting follow-up information on our Facebook page as well as Twitter. And we are currently working on our 2016 lineup for Flameside Chats, taking the month of December off because, it's holidays. So, but we'll be working on that. So please watch your email, watch Facebook, watch Twitter for the information on next year's exciting Flameside Chats. So with that out of the way, answer my questions, gentlemen, please.
All right, out there, Flameside listeners, I guess, Jamie, do you make a good corn pudding? I just want to know that if you make a good corn pudding, because that's
I like to eat a good corn pudding, but make
because that's my first answer, corn pudding. And how about you?
I like turkey.
Okay.
I look forward to turkey on Thanksgiving.
All right.
I like it.
I think, again, I'm thankful. I have to say, as a Center alum, I received the presidential scholarship from Center, and I've been humbled and grateful for the investment that this college has poured into my life, and my niece is considering hopefully attending Center. So I'm very thankful for Center. It's an amazing school. It's opened me up with a great liberal arts education to be I think a pretty decent priest, and I just really am grateful for the connections and the opportunities. I always think of a Center as continually evolving into this amazing reality that I just can't help but come back to at some level. So be grateful out there. Be grateful for your blessings and count them. Use your fingers or toes, and know that when you have that attitude of gratitude, like Richard said earlier, it'll spill out. And it doesn't have to be every day that you experience something magnificent or awesome, but that you're open and that you can perhaps be a grateful being, and then that will impact somebody's lives and teach them how you've been raised and how you've been blessed. And again, I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for allowing me to share this time with you. I have so much to be grateful for. 43 years of happy marriage, 2 wonderful daughters, the opportunity to ride the higher education locomotive out of the working class to the middle class. I love learning, and I've had the opportunity to pursue that throughout my life, and that's a marvelous privilege. The opportunity to work for Center College. I often have said that whenever I've been tempted to doubt the existence of a benevolent creator, I'm reminded that I couldn't have written the script for my own life. It's been one of such great privilege, such opportunity to know good people and work with them as they're acting on their highest and best motivations, and those are motivations to help others. what a great privilege that is. And one of the blessings I don't count. And I will spend a little time thinking about the blessings of my life on Thursday.
A great sentiment to end this on, gentlemen. Thank you so much again for a really engaging, warm, and really just timely and something we all need kind of conversation. So I appreciate you both joining us tonight and sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us. I'd like to wish everybody out there a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your break. Be safe out there. And I guess we'll see you next year. See you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.